Okay, so to start with this, the first thing we do is go into three big lifts, which is the squat, the bench press, and the deadlift. I'm going to explain the warm up and cool down of each movement, and then form creaks and cues, and then after that I'll go into one of them and finding three good accessory lifts for them. And then after that we'll go into the body weight movement and the progressions and regressions. So to begin, we're going to start with the squat. And the first warm up I ever do for any lift is these pull throughs. So what you do is you grab a PVC pipe or some light bar you can use, and you do a snatch grip basically, and then backward and forward, just like this. I'll show you from the side. This is to stretch out the chest and get the shoulders mobile. It's especially useful for a low bar squat when your shoulder is in a much more stretched position. So I usually have my client or myself do about 15 of these. And the next thing we'll go into for squats specifically is some overhead squats with the PVC pipe. So what you'll do is again the snatch grip, over above your head, like this. Put your feet where they would normally be in a squat, and then just do 10 to 15 normal body weight squats, just like this. From the side. After this, I would probably have myself or them do around 5 minutes of light cardio, either on a treadmill or a stationary bike, or just walking around the gym. As you can see here, you don't have a whole lot of room, so normally I'd use a stationary bike. But anyways, after that, we're going to do just some light mobility, just some forward and side-to-side leg swings. Then basically like this, you just make sure you have room, and then you go back, forward, just like this, get a good long range of motion. And I usually have them do about 10 to 15 of those, and then you do the other side obviously, and then you do from side to side, so it will look something like this. The same thing, just opening up the hips, out and out, 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 just like that. And then after that, we would finally move into doing the movement. I will adjust the camera so that it can be seen. Okay. So, the first thing we're going to do is just some squats with the empty barbell. So you've got a bar. I'm going to be teaching a high bar squat, so what you're going to do is shrug your scapulae back, so it creates kind of a shelf of your trap for the bar to sit on right there. And then you're going to have, I like to have my hands, my thumb right against the smooth part of the bar, so about shoulder width apart, and my feet would be about shoulder width, maybe a little bit closer for high bar. If we were doing low bar, the feet would be wider, but since this is high bar, they're going to be a little bit closer together. And you're going to get under the bar, just like this, and then create a shelf for the bar, stand up, take a couple steps back, just like this, and then do some reps. I usually do about 5. When you're going down, you want to make sure to bend at your knees and at your hips. Typically what you would do is bend at your knees first and then start sending your hips down, just like that. Keeping a rigid upper body the entire time, keeping your chest out and strong. You don't want your chest to collapse, because then the bar can fall on your neck, and that's not a good thing. We want to avoid that. We want to keep the bar in place. You want to keep your shoulders back and tuck your elbows under you, just like this. You don't want your elbows like all over the place like this. You want them tucked back and strong, so they're not moving around. If they move, the bar can move, and that's not good. So, and then from there, I would probably, depending on what they were doing, I would go up and weight. Me normally, the next step I would take is to put 135 on the bar, so 45 on each side. But some people might be working with less weight, maybe with more weight. Usually for anyone working with more, we always do 135 as the next step. But if someone, maybe their top set's 135, then maybe I would just put a 10 and a 5 on each side. So it depends on their strength level, but we go up from the empty bar and progress into the first working set after probably 2 to 3 warm-up sets. Okay, next we have the bench press, and I will adjust this so that it can be seen, just like that. Okay, now for bench, do the same thing for the PVC pipe. We're gonna hold it at a snatch grip and bend backwards and forwards. 10 to 15 reps of this to open up the shoulders and stretch out the chest and get some mobility going. The next thing that I do for bench is I use an elastic band, a very light one like this, and do some band pull aparts to work the shoulders. So I would have this out like this, and then pull it apart, just like that, and do about 15 reps. And then 4, 5, and continue on until they're done. And then what I'm gonna do is do some external rotation of the shoulder, just to get it warmed up a bit more. Just 10 to 15 reps of this, just one set for everything. Stretch out like that, and feeling the stretch in the back of the shoulder. Just to make sure the shoulders are warmed up well. Shoulder injuries are pretty common, so we want to avoid them as much as possible. And then what I would do is have them do some more band pull aparts, but at an angle. So instead of doing straight, have them do up like this, and then obviously the other way too. That I would have them do about 5 each of those. Again, just to get as much movement of the shoulder as possible, warm it up as well as we possibly can to avoid injury to the shoulder. Okay, and next, what I would have them do, again, before any workout, we're going to do the light cardio for about 5 minutes. Treadmill, stationary bike, walking around the gym. Just something very light that's going to elevate the heart rate a little bit, but not make the lifter fatigued. So I would do some arm circles here. We're going to do some small ones going forward. And then we're going to do about 10 to 20 of those, and then some bigger ones. Really get the motion in the chest. Just like this. Shift to the side. Just like that. I'll move this PVC pipe over to the side for now. Make sure that this is visible. And then what we're going to do from there is we're going to do the same that we did for squats. We're going to, after we warm up the shoulders and the chest and the upper body and warm up the heart with some light cardio, we're going to go into doing the bench press exercise and start with just the empty bar. So, this over here. And we're going to do these warm-up sets just like we would do a normal set. So what you're going to do is go sit on the bench on the seat part. You're going to shrug your shoulders, rather your scapulae back and down. And it's important that they stay there because when they move around, that can cause injury to the shoulder as well. So we're going to shrug back and down, and we're going to lay back. And when we lay back, we're going to imagine pressing the traps into the bench, like into the pad we're laying on. And when we do that, it's gonna help us get the chest high. A cue I really like to use is press your chest to the ceiling to let the lifter know, get as big of an arch as you possibly can, get their chest shrugged up as much as possible, open up the chest as much as you can, and rather push your shoulders and your trapezius into the bench as much as you can to get a really good arch. Also, you're gonna have your legs underneath you and be having a lot of tightness in your legs to help push and give you some leg drive. So, and when you grab the bar, you're gonna grab it about shoulder width, maybe a little bit wider. Typically, where I like to do it is put my pinkies on the edge of the knurling, so on that one ring that is there. Some people may do a little bit wider, a little bit less wide. This is where I like to do it. It's really whatever's comfortable. Usually slightly wider than shoulder width though. So again, back and down. Push your traps into the bar, and then you're going to grab the barbell. You're going to make sure your eyes are level with the bar, and then you're going to make sure your legs are tight, and then push up. And we're going to do about 5 reps, and bring it down to your lower chest, and then push up. After we do that, that, we would do the same thing we did with squats, where we would add weight. The next step I would go to from this point is to put 135 on the bar. For other people, it may be different, but the basic rule is after this, we're going to go up in weight from here. Some other things to remember, some cues, is to keep the shoulders at 45 degrees. When you go down, you don't want them tucked in like a close grip bench. You don't want them out like this, because that can be harmful to the shoulder. What you really want is to have them at 45 degrees when you go down, and then push up. But when you push up, instead of thinking just push straight up, imagine pushing up and back. So the bar goes to the original position, and anatomically it's best for the chest to do it like that. And then from there, again, you just increase the weight. You also want to make sure that your forearms are straight into the bar, so when you go down, they're like this. They're not too wide or too narrow. You want to keep the wrist as straight as possible. And adjust the camera. Next, we're going to do deadlifts. I'm going to adjust this a little bit so it's easier to see. There we go. Just like that. Okay. Now, for deadlifts, it's a similar warm-up. We've got a PVZ pipe. So, what we're going to do, again, is the same stretch of the upper body, all the way back, and I'll move forward again. And since the deadlift is technically a leg exercise, we're also going to be doing the overhead body weight squats again. Just like we did for squats, you're gonna hold it above the bar a little bit, and then do 10 to 15 air squats, just like 10 to 15 of the stretches backward and forward. And just like that. Again, since this is also a big lift, we're also going to do 5 minutes of some light cardio, and then from there we're going to go into working with the bar. But we're not going to start doing a deadlift. What I like to do is grab the empty bar and just do about 10 to 12 remaining deadlifts. Just to warm up the hamstrings, the glutes, and the lower back. Grab the bar. Your foot width and your grip are going to be about the same as it would be for your normal deadlift. If you do conventional. If you do sumo, it's a different story, but I'm going to be teaching conventional today, since that's what I'm best at, and that's what I know how to coach the best. So, to do the ready deadlift, you're just going to hinge at the hips, and keep the back straight, and bend forward until you feel, until you're a little bit below the knees, or you feel a big stretch in your hamstrings. Also, keeping the legs straight during this process. We'll do about 10 to 12 of those. And then next, after that, I would usually have them do a little bit of hyperextensions to work on flexing the back, or they're extending the back. So what we do is just hop onto this. Also just to hold the lower back to prevent any type of injuries to the lower back. And we would just do about 12 to 15 of these. So you can grab. What I do is have it on across the chest, open it down, and then squeeze the glutes and go up. Again, squeeze the glutes and go up. So really the warm-up is just very light exercises of the muscle we plan to use. I may also have them open up the hips. This is more important if you're doing sumo rather than conventional. And I also have them do leg swings forward and backward with both legs, and then side to side with both legs. So in, out. Just like that. Typically, for deadlift, I also like to do some walking lunges. So we would have them just do some basic bodyweight lunges, going forward. So the knee touches the ground carefully. And some more. And you can keep going until you run out of room. Here we don't have much room, so we just go back and forth across the platform. Just like this. So in order to show the deadlift the best, I'm going to put a plate on each side so it's at the correct height. Make that go fast. To get sort of a warm up in itself, just from loading the bar full of your cleats, especially if you're a heavier lifter. You've definitely experienced that before. Just like that on each side. From behind here to keep the bar steady, rather the plate steady. Okay. That's so I like to either deadlift barefoot or with flat soles like Vans or Converse. And since I'm wearing weight the shoes with heel, I'm just gonna take these off. It is most definitely safer if you're on a slick surface to use shoes so you don't slip. This is not a slick surface at all, but you'd have a straight someone here, I would have them wear shoes just to be safe. So what you're gonna do for the deadlift, you're gonna approach the bar and you're gonna have your shins about an inch from the bar and you're gonna have your feet about shoulder width apart, pointed out slightly. So once you do that, going to, what I do to engage the lats is to, a cue I really like is to pinch a pin in your armpit and push the earth down. So what I do is you push down as far as you can and then squeeze your armpits together. This is going to help engage the lats and also make your arms a tiny bit longer. So the bar is easier to pick up. So again, we're going to push the earth down and then squeeze a pin in the armpits, just like this. You're going to reach down, and when you reach down, you're going to have a relaxed back, like that. And then once you bring your shins to the bar, you're going to straighten your back, just like this. And then to pull the slack out of the bar, this is very important. You're going to bring the hips back a little bit and pull up on the bar using your leg drive. So if it's very slight, but you may notice it, there's going to be a slight movement of the bar or I'm pulling up the slack. There's a little bit of space between the barbell and the actual plates. So pulling it all together, stay close to the bar. Your hips, and pull the slack. And then you're going to drive your legs through the ground. That's the lift your leg is push, leg press the ground, or drive your legs through the ground. And once you get to your knees, treat it like a hip thrust or a manual deadlift, either way you would like to think about it. So you're pushing your legs to the ground so you get to your knees, and then extend your hips and treat it like a manual deadlift. Until you lock out your hips. You don't want to overextend, you just want to be straight. And do the same thing, you go down eccentrically until you reach your knees, and then bend your knees and let the bar down. So I'll do that for a couple reps to show you what it's like. Additionally, this is pretty common sense, but you don't want your back to be bending all over the place. You want to keep your back neutral. So, some other cues to think of is looking all the way up like this, not keeping your head tucked, keeping your neck neutral with your back. That's also very important. For the grip, you can either do double overhand, which is the weakest, switch grip, where one hand is supinated and one hand is pronated, or you can do a hook grip. The hook grip is by far my favorite. I feel like it's stronger. It does hurt a little bit at first, but it's easy to get used to. So I recommend using the hook grip, where you wrap your finger around the bar first, and then your thumb around the bar first, and then your fingers go over your thumb, just like that. You could also use straps, but you don't want to rely on them too heavily. Okay, so now for the cool down of all these exercises. I feel like the best cool down you can do for lifting is to just stretch out the muscles you used. So I'm gonna move this back some so you can see. like that. So, since we did the squat first, we'll stretch out our hamstrings and our quads. So, you'll grab, I like to do it with the opposite hand, you can do it with the same hand, doesn't really matter. You're gonna grab the ankle and pull it toward your back, and then you're gonna stretch your quad. And I'll hold it for about 30 seconds, and then we'll go. Same thing with the other side. And you can also stretch your hamstring. So, move this a little bit. Okay. So, place this back. So, to stretch the hamstring, the stretch I like to do personally is keep one leg on the ground and stretch one out over the bench. And then just reach out and touch your toes. You'll feel a stretch a little bit in your calf and mostly in your hamstring. You hold it for about 30 seconds. And then the same thing goes. And stretch this leg. Same thing. Now, for the deadlift, basically the same muscles. I would also stretch on my glutes for the deadlift and the squat as well. So the stretch I like to do for the glutes is very simple. You're sitting on the edge of a bench, right? And the glutes that you want to stretch, you're going to bend that leg up and place it laying this way on the bench. And you're just going to lean forward. And you feel a stretch mainly in your glute medius and on the side of your leg. So hold it for about 30 seconds. And then same thing to the other side. Some people may not be able to lean all the way forward. Some people can lean all the way to the ground. I definitely can't lean that far. But basically, you don't want to overstretch. You just want to stretch till you feel a good tension. And then just let it rest there, 30 seconds. And then you're good. Now for the bench, what I would have the individual do, turn this a little bit, is stretch out the chest. And the best way I like to do this, turn a little bit more, is to put your elbow, the inside of your elbow against something mobile. I'm lucky to have these like steel columns, so you could do it against a squat rack or against have someone else help you stretch it out or anything like that. Just place it against the bar, and you're gonna lean the other way until you feel a big stretch right here. It's gonna go through your whole entire chest. I'll show it to you from the other side. So I'm just going backwards like this. Also, your lats may be sore from doing deadlifts. So, in order to help with that, you can grab on the squat rack pillar, column, anything you want. You're gonna hold on to it, hinge backward, and just kind of lean backward, let your lats stretch out. And you're gonna hold that for about 30 seconds. You'll feel it like throughout here. And if it was a very hard workout, cooling down with some very light cardio is a good idea. Typically, I always cool down with a little bit of cardio. I feel like the best recipe for recovering and cooling down after intense weight training session is do some light stretching and then some light cardio. So after that, the movement I'm going to use to do 3 variations with is going to be the bench press. So I'll move this back over here and place this here so you can see. Okay. So the first assistance exercise or free weight movement I'm going to use associated with the bench press to complement it well is going to be the close grip bench press. It's very similar to the regular bench press. Your arms are just closer together and it just makes it a more tricep dominant movement. So it's very simple to do. You're just going to grab the bar a lot closer, the same position with your back and your legs. I'm going to grab the bar here as opposed to here. And when you go down, your elbows are going to be tucked in a little bit more than for a normal bench press. So you're going to go all the way down to your chest, and up, all the way down to your chest. Again, making sure your wrists are straight the entire time. You don't want bending backward or bending forward or bending to the side. And then up. Now the next free weight exercise that will complement the bench press well is a dumbbell bench press. So I'm going to grab my 2 dumbbells here, this one, and then this one. So This is just like a regular bench. You're just using dumbbells. It helps doing a dumbbell bench instead of a regular bench press can help with stability issues you may have in your shoulders. So what you're gonna do is take both of the dumbbells, set up the bench. If you don't have someone to hand them to, you can just kick them up yourself, which is what I normally do. So just kick up the dumbbells and lay back. We're gonna pinch your scapulae back and down, and then you're gonna press up, not letting them hit each other. Just press them straight up and down, and then up. Again, making sure your wrist is straight. Down, up, down, and up. And then to get back down, you're gonna pick the knees, put them rest against your knees, and use it to help you up. Now, the next exercise, the final exercise that's going to come on the bench as well, is an incline bench press. So I'm going to incline this bench here. And we'll be able to do it. I'm going to grab this bar here. And normally I would have this in the other rack so I could do it more safely, but since this is just a demonstration, your hands will be a little bit wider than regular bench. They can be the same distance, but typically they go a little bit wider. So I'll usually, instead of having my pinky finger on the ring, I'll have like my middle finger on the ring. Okay, what you're gonna do, instead of lowering the bar to your lower chest, it's gonna be to your upper chest. So it's gonna be more your your elbows flared out, not completely, but a little bit more than 45 degrees, which is normal. You still don't want them all the way up because it can still be bad for your shoulder. And everything else is the same. Pinch your scapulae back and down. Use your leg drive and all of that. So, also make sure your wrists are straight the entire time. Go up, this. Keep your back and your head against the bench. Go down, up. And the reason that the close grip bench complements the regular bench press well because it uses the triceps more, which can be an issue if you have a problem with locking out the bench press. The dumbbell bench is good for complementing the bench press because it helps work the stabilizer muscles better and helps work the shoulders a little bit more because they have to work harder to stabilize instead of using just a straight bar. And the reason that the incline bench press complements the regular bench press well is because it works the upper chest, which the regular bench doesn't really do all that much. It does, but this helps hit the upper chest a lot harder. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cover the bodyweight exercise with 2 progressions and 2 regressions. So for the bodyweight exercise I'm going to choose is going to be the push-up. So I will adjust this accordingly. I'm gonna bring this over here. Move this bar out of the way. And then for the push-up, this is gonna be one push-up. I'll demonstrate real quick. Just have your hands a little about shoulder width apart. Keep your entire body in a straight line. Go down, and then up. And then, so first off, 2 regressions in this exercise are doing it on an elevated surface and doing a push-up on your knees. So I'll demonstrate the first one first, or the second one first rather, doing a push-up on your knees. So instead of doing it on your feet, you're going to be doing it on your knees. What it's going to look like is your body will still be in a straight line, but instead you'll be on your knees, and this helps make it a little bit lighter. So while you're on your knees, you're going to do the same push-up. Also, you don't want to bring your hips back too much. You want to keep your hips straight. Just like that. The other regression I'm going to show. Move this over here. It's going to be push up on an elevated surface. So what I'm going to do, instead of doing it on the ground, do it on a bench, and grab it here. This is also going to make it easier because it's less range of motion. And the same concept applies. Your body stays in a straight line, go down, and then up. And then up. Okay. So, now for the progressions. The first progression I'm going to show, instead of having your hands on an elevated surface, you'll have your feet on an elevated surface. So use this bench to show that. So what you're going to do is have your feet up here. When you're doing a push-up, same thing applies, but it's kind of like doing an incline bench. Instead of having your hands go like this, you'll probably go out a little bit wider, and your elbows can flare out a little bit more. You're going to be tapping your upper chest with your chin on the ground very slightly. Be careful with this exercise, it's easy to fall and bust your chin. Try to avoid that as much as you can by keeping the body straight and monitoring your strength. You don't want to go to failure or something like this if you don't have a spotter, because it's easy to hurt yourself. So you're going to put your feet up here, down, and up. Now, the next progression I'm going to show is a close grip push-up, or also called a diamond push-up because of the position your hands are in. This is also like a close grip bench. It's going to be a little bit more difficult because it uses mainly the triceps, so it's going to be, you won't be able to do as many. Just like on a close grip bench, you can't go as heavy on a close grip bench as you can on a regular bench because of how much more difficult it is. So I'll demonstrate that real quick. Yeah, when your hands are in a diamond, it's kind of painful to do a straight. So I have my hands maybe a little bit farther apart, but still close grip. Same thing, everything else applies. Keeping your body straight, keeping your shoulders stable by struggling your scapula back and down, and your shoulders, your elbows will probably be tucked in a little bit more, so like this. Very close together. Down, up, down, up, down, up. And that wraps up all the video. Stuff I had to cover. 3 big lifts, the warm-up cooldowns for each lift. The accessory lifts is one of them. The bodyweight exercise with 2 progressions, 2 regressions. And I will also follow up with some cues and some form critiques in the paper.